Alright, what's up guys? Today we are doing a brand new video. This is a hugely requested video. I'm doing a Dark Magician tier list. This is going to include all of the Dark Magician Girl and Dark Magician cards that have ever been released. Just keep in mind, I'm doing this based on how good they are in a Dark Magician deck. So keep that in mind. I will try to evaluate as many cards individually, but that is the main goal is how good are they in the deck. So let's not waste too much time. This is going to be a long video. There's no way to slide it. Leave a like and enjoy. But let's get started. First, we've got the Magician Girl. This card is actually a banned card, a banned artwork. It's not even used in the TCG yet. It hasn't been released. C tier card takes two level 6 spellcasters to summon, and then you can detach a material and then banish a card in your hand, and then either steal your opponent's monster from their side of the field till the end phase, or steal a monster from their graveyard. So it's kind of like a Monster Reborn slash it's kind of like a Monster Reborn slash Change of Heart. It's a decent effect, I gotta say. It's a half decent effect. Yeah, the banishing from the hand isn't great, and the whole not being available in the TCG is another huge issue, but still I might as well review it. Alright, next is Dark Magic Expanded. This card is very, very situational. I'm not a huge fan of it. I'd put it somewhere in D tier. Or actually, I'll put it at the end of C tier. This card is very situational. Basically, it allows you to... basically, depending on how many Dark Magicians and Dark Magician Girls you have in the graveyard, you gain additional effects. If you have one, you can make a spellcaster monster you control gain 1,000 attack. If you have two, you can make it so your opponent can't destroy or respond to your spell and trap card activations. And if you have three, your dark spell and trap monsters, dark monsters, spellcaster monsters are unaffected by your opponent's card effects. That seems pretty good, but it really doesn't like advance you in play in any way. The only reason this card would be good is if you like set it and your opponent activates like Harpy's Feather Duster and you chain it so that your Eternal Soul doesn't get destroyed. That's the only reason why I would imagine this card to be like playable at all in that regard. But honestly, there are just cards that do this a lot better. There are cards that make your monsters unaffected better, like Eternal Soul. There are cards that protect back row better, like the Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight. Like, there are just cards in the archetype that just do this better than this card. So there's really no point to play. And then the 1,000 attack gain is just irrelevant. It doesn't really do much. It's just not enough. Next we've got what is this? Sage's Stone. Basically, if you control a Dark Magician Girl, summon a Dark Magician. Pretty good card. The cool thing about this card is it has no real cost. So all you have to do is just control a Dark Magician. So if you summon it off of like Magician Souls and you have it, you just summon it. It's not a terrible card. It's just you have to play Dark Magician Girl, and that makes it a lot more bricky. When you start playing like the whole Dark Magician Girl engine, it introduces a lot of bricks within the deck that you have to really second guess and ask yourself if they're really even worth playing. And yeah, that's why I don't know. This card is a little questionable. But it is technically not bad, because all you're really giving up is this card in your hand to replace it with a Dark Magician. So it's technically not bad. Now, for the bat, see, we just got 3 C tiers in a row. We've got F tier, first F tier. Dark Magician Flare Knight, just not a good card. Not a good card. Basically, this card can't be destroyed by battle. I mean, no, you take no battle damage with this card. It can be destroyed by battle, because if this card is destroyed by battle, you get to summon a Mirage Knight. And Mirage Knight is another letdown that we'll get to later. But basically, you fuse this card by fusing Dark Magician and Flame Swordsman, and this card is actually weaker than Dark Magician. So you give up 2 monsters, one of which is already difficult to summon, which is the Flame Swordsman. Like, it's already fairly difficult to summon a real Flame Swordsman unless you're using Eye of Timaeus to summon this, in which case I don't even know why you would do that, because there's better options. But if you were using the Flame Swordsman to summon this card, I mean, it's just the amount of resource you have to pour into this, and then the effect that you get back is just so lackluster. It's just pointless. It's especially when you think about what Mirage Knight does at the end of it. Yeah, but definitely F tier, very bad card. This is a controversial one, Eye of Timaeus. I like the card. Believe, like, I really like the card. The issue with the card is it's not searchable. Like, that's the one issue with it. And when you play 3 copies, sometimes you open too many. Sometimes you open 2 and you have nothing to do with them. Sometimes you don't open any. But what I do like about Eye of Timaeus is that it gives you the option to summon a wide range of Dark Magician monsters. So that is one of the things that I really like about Eye of Timaeus. It is, like I gotta say, it's a pretty controversial card. I'd probably put it in the top of B tier. A tier is like a card that you like have to play, and S tier are like exceptional cards. Eye of Timaeus is very optional, but it's a very good optional card. So I definitely put it at the top of B tier. This is Berry Magician Girl. This one is D tier. This one's not very good. All this one basically does is summon. It is just search on normal summon. It searches a Dark Magician Girl card, which isn't too bad, but it's not like they special summon themselves anyway. But it basically refills your hand with Dark Magician Girl cards, and then if it's attacked, it redirects the attack. It basically summons a monster from a Dark Magician Girl monster from your hand. So this one's just not. All the Dark Magician Girls are not really that great, with the exception of Chocolate and regular Dark Magician. All the other ones are kind of like not too great to play in an actual Dark Magician deck, unless you're building it to be a pure Dark Magician Girl deck. Next we have Destined Rivals. This is a B tier card. This is still optional. I don't think you have to play this. That's a good card. It is very searchable. It's better in Dark Magician than it is in Blue Eyes. This card basically, if you control a Blue Eyes or Dark Magician, you activate it and then negate the effects of all of your opponent's monsters that they currently controlled. So it's basically like a searchable impermanence. Like, it's really not bad. The benefit with playing it in Dark Magician is the Dark Magician already searches a lot of cards anyway. It has very, very good search cards, unlike Blue Eyes, which has terrible search cards. But yeah, this card is way better in Dark Magician. It's basically like a searchable impermanence. Definitely a very solid B tier, up near Timaeus. We've got our first A tier, Soul Servant. This card changed the way Dark Magician has been played. I mean, you have to play it. Like, it's a very good card. I wouldn't imagine playing a build where I didn't play this card. It lets you put a card that lists Dark Magician in its text on the top of your deck, and then additionally, during the same turn, you can banish this from the graveyard and then draw for every different copy of Dark Magician Girl, and Palladium Oracle monsters that you have in the graveyard. So if you have four of those different cards, you can draw 4 cards, although that probably will never happen. Because you'd be having to play a ton of different bricks, but typically you will draw at least 1 card. Like, you always have a Dark Magician in graveyard, so you'll always draw. So you'll put something on the top of your deck, and then you'll instantly draw. It's a very, very good consistency card for the deck, and it's even good to activate like in end phase. Like, you just in end phase, meaning it's like your opponent's end phase, you activate this during their end phase, put a card on the top of your deck, and then enter draw phase, and you draw what you just added. So it really is good. It's like a quasi search. So I actually like the card a lot. And then sometimes you draw 2 cards if you're playing the Palladium or Dark Magician Girls. Next we play, or sorry, not play. We've got the Magician's Dark Magic Attack. This card is optional, but it's a very good optional card. Basically, this lets you destroy all your opponent's spawn trap cards if you control a Dark Magician. That's a really good card, and it's very searchable. It's searchable off Eternal Soul, and it's searchable through a ton of different ways, like a ton of different search cards. And I like this a lot better than the Blue Eyes card, simply because it is extraordinarily searchable. But yeah, it's very good. Dark Magician, here's the problem with this card. This card would actually be better, but Dark Magician as a deck doesn't really struggle with back row quite as much. So it's not really a huge concern for the deck anyways. And it's like, by the time you summon a Dark Magician to your side of the field, you've already had to play through a certain amount of back row disruptions anyway. So by the time you summon that Dark Magician and activate this card, you've already done enough where their back row really didn't do anything anyway. But like in the grind game, if you're playing against a back row deck, this card actually comes in clutch. But it's not near the top. All right, next we've got Magical Dimension. This card is really old. It came out in the structure deck. It was the Dark Magician structure deck that came out. This card's not bad. Like, it's not terrible. The problem, here's the issue. There are a lot of cards in Dark Magician is a very going first deck. Like, you want to go first with Dark Magician. And your side deck cards are typically going to be going second cards. So a card like this, you really wouldn't want a main deck because it has a lot of issues. So basically what this card does, I'll put it down. It is somewhere in C tier. I like it better than these two cards because it's less bricky. You could play this as an interruption. I could see that. Basically what it allows you to do is tribute a spellcaster monster you control. And then you can summon a spellcaster monster from your hand and then destroy a card your opponent controls. So it's not bad on paper because it gets like a Dark Magician and Graveyard that you can bring back with Eternal Soul and all of that stuff. But it's not Dark Magician in name. It is technically within the archetype because it was intended to be played in the Dark Magician deck when it came out. That's why I included it in this list. But it is a Dark Magician in name, so it's not searchable, and you don't want to draw this like one of. It basically requires a lot of different stuff. It requires you to have a spellcaster on board, a spellcaster in hand, and you can't activate it going first because obviously, you know, your opponent has to have a monster for you to destroy and send to the graveyard. So it's got a few different issues, but other than that, I think it's a half decent card. It's definitely got some utility. That's why it's C tier and not below. This card is another F tier. I like the card as a design. Like, I think it looks amazing. But it's just, there's a better version that has come out since. There's a retrain. It's just objectively better. There's really no point to play this. And the other thing about the Magician of Black Chaos that I don't like is that it is a level 8 in a deck of level 7s. So typically you'll have to give up like 2 Dark Magicians just to summon this, plus the ritual spell, plus having the card in hand. So you give up like 4 cards to summon a monster with no effect. It's just not, it's not there for me. But you can, you know, like cheat this card out, but even so, like, why would you want to? Apprentice Illusion Magician, awesome card, really good support card. It gives you a free special summon. It searches Dark Magician. It gives you battle. It gives you a battle boost without having to play some stupid spell card like Dark Magic Expanded. Some dumb random spell card. This lets you get over big monsters. If your opponent has if your opponent has their own Dragoon, you can have one of your Dark Magicians get over that Dragoon fairly easily just by using this card's attack boost. It's kind of like an Honest for Dark Magicians. It searches a card, it searches a Dark Magician, and it's a free special summon, and it puts a card in graveyard, which could be a Dark Magician, which helps you kind of throughout. It's a very good card for the deck. It's probably going to be at the higher end of A tier as we continue to do this. You could even argue this card could go into S tier. I mean, honestly. It's a very good card. Within the deck, it's a very good card. Alright, next we've got Black Illusion. This card, I'll just put in... you can put it at the bottom of C or D. I think it's at least expanded. Dark Magic Expanded is searchable. This is not searchable. Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this card. Basically, it makes your monsters that are... any of your Dark Spellcasters that are 2,000 or more, it makes them unaffected by your opponent's card effects. It makes them... so they can't be destroyed by battle, and then it negates their effects, which honestly, like, Eternal Soul does that anyway. Like, Eternal Soul makes it so your Dark Magicians are unaffected by your opponent's card effects, which is going to be the main monster that you have on the field at any given time. So that's already the major effect, and then they can't be destroyed by battle, which is like, okay, but it's only for 1 turn anyway. I just don't think this card is that great. It's better than like the Dark Magician girls because they're not all that great, but not really. Actually, no, it's probably not. It's probably not. Next, we've got Lemon Magician Girl, better than Berry Magician Girl. This one, if you control, so you contribute another. Here, just listen to this. It's so dumb. You contribute if you have this on the field. You contribute another Dark Magician Girl monster you control to search any spellcaster in the game, which is really good. You can search any spellcaster. You don't even have to search Dark Magician cards. You can literally search any spellcaster. But the issue is you have to have this and then another Dark Magician Girl card, which I imagine this card probably in the Dark Magician Girl deck is probably not that bad, but just like in the Dark Magician deck, it's not all that great. And then it has the usual battle redirecting effects of the Dark Magician Girls, which again is a little too slow. I'm not really into the whole battle phase effects in modern Yu-Gi-Oh. It's not enough. Next, we've got the Dark Illusionist. Controversial. This one has slipped out. Like, he used to be A tier, where like you had to play him. He was very good, and I honestly think he is right here now. Basically, if a spell trap card is activated, you can special summon him to your field, and then if another spell trap card is activated, you can special summon a Dark Magician from your graveyard. 2 pretty good effects, and then on top of that, he always counts as Dark Magician. So all pretty good effects, but there are just better cards to play now. There's just better cards to play. He's still I'd say he's still a decent one of, but I would never play him at more than 1. There's just no purpose. Next, we've got Magicians Unite. This is probably F tier. I really don't like this card. This card, basically, if you control at least 2 spellcaster monsters, you can make one of those spellcaster monsters 3,000, and then that's the only spellcaster that can attack, which is just so bad. Like, for so many reasons, that's just so bad. Like all of those restrictions to make one monster as strong as Blue Eyes. You have to give up a card. It's just terrible. I would never play that card. Dragoon, our first S tier. Yeah, this card is very good. It changed the deck. Like, it makes the deck a lot better. It's such a good card. Other people are playing it. Like, this is probably one of the best boss monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh. Like, Blue Eyes has nothing like this. It is a very good boss monster, and it's even better in the Dark Magician archetype because you have even easier access to it. You have very easy access to it. You can summon two Dragoons sometimes because you can use the usual route of like polymerization and stuff like that, and then you can use Magicalized Fusion afterwards. Like, you can use the Secrets of Dark Magic, this card down here. You can use this to summon a Dragoon, and then afterwards go into Verde Anaconda, use Magicalized Fusion, banish the targets in the graveyard, and end on 2 Dragoons. Which is just, it's bananas. On top of that, can't be destroyed by battle. Can't be destroyed by battle. Can't be destroyed by card effects. Can't be targeted. Has a negate. Pops 2 monsters. Like, it's so good in the deck. It's better in this deck than it is in regular. Dark Magician Girl. Like, I'm very iffy on this. All right, I'll be honest with you. This one's a difficult one. Because like I like the card in certain instances because there are a lot of cards built around Dark Magician Girl that when they are going are really, really good, but the problem is you add a brick to your deck that I don't particularly like to add, and then her effects just like in itself aren't that good because she just gets a small boost, but that's kind of irrelevant because Dark Magician has no effects whatsoever, and he's still very good, but you know, playing her sometimes is a little difficult, so I'm gonna put her like in the top of C tier. Actually, no, I said this is always play, this is always play, this is most likely play, so I'll put her in like the bottom of B tier, just because I think she's actually fairly decent because she allows you to play a lot of cool cards like Bond between teacher and student. She allows a lot of certain cards to float. And then special summon her like the Dark Magician. So there's definitely some utility to using her. The only problem is sometimes she can be a serious brick for you. But generally speaking, I think she's half decent. Next, Magician of... This is... I don't know the official names now because they're all different, but Dark Magician of Chaos. This is the post-errata Dark Magician of Chaos. And now, keep in mind, when I'm reviewing this stuff, it is how good this card is within the Dark Magician deck. It's not how good this card is, period. It's how good the card is within the Dark Magician deck. And this particular card, I actually don't think is that good in the Dark Magician deck, because again, it's level 8. You have no real way to summon this card consistently in this deck. Just because, like, Magician's Navigation, for example, is... your main way of summoning during your opponent's turn, Magician's Navigation, and this is not compatible with that. Like, there's a lot of, like, the problem, this card being level 8 is making it a lot worse within this archetype. So I'd probably put it, and then on top of that, the errata makes it so if you summon it, basically when this card is normal or special summon, you add back a spell, which is a crazy effect. But now with the errata, that only happens during the end phase. So you add a spell during the end phase, and like, what is that going to help you at the end phase? Like, let's say you add Eye of Timaeus back during the end phase, you can't activate it, you can't use it. Even if you add a quick play, you still can't use it unless you use the there's one of these other Ebon High Magician, in which case you can, but like still, like, why would you? Yeah, I just don't think it's very useful within the deck, but I think it's still better than these two boneheaded Dark Magician Girl cards. Next, Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight. Very good card, A tier. Definitely A tier. Bottom of A tier because it's still somewhat optional. The issue with this card is you have to play some goofy cards to get it out. It's basically a Dark Magician and any dragon monster, which is like not bad. It's pretty good stuff. Yeah, Dark Magician and any dragon monster is not that bad. It's basically the same thing as Dragoon. Dragoon is a Dark Magician and an effect monster, or or Red Eyes. This card has basically the same like summoning conditions as Dragoon, but it's just not as good. Basically, this just gives you protection for your spawn trap cards. Mainly, it's going to protect your Eternal Soul, and Eternal Soul is essential to the deck because it lets you continuously summon a Dark Magician every single turn. Basically gives you free resources to do anything like Link plays, XYZ plays, what else? Banishing stuff off of Magical Circle. Like this card gives you a lot of various consistency too. On top of that, this counts as a Dark Magician in the graveyard and on the field, so you can actually bring it back with the Eternal Soul if it was properly summoned. So it's got definitely a lot of positives. The only thing is you have to play. If you're playing with Dragoon already, it doesn't really matter. But there's a cool combo where you can summon this and Dragoon at the same time. Because you can summon Dragoon with, like, let's say you use Polymerization to fuse Red Eyes and Dark Magician. Summon Dragoon, and then you can use, you can summon like a Verde Anaconda, send Magical Eyes Fusion, and then summon out the Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight. And then you have your back row protected, and you have a negate. And then you have an Eternal Soul to constantly loop things. All pretty cool. Dark Magical Inheritance. I think this is a B tier card. Better than Dark Magic Attack. Basically, this lets you banish 2 spells and search any spell trap card that lists Dark Magician in its name. I think it's a pretty cool card, honestly. Yeah, it's actually a fairly good card. The cost is almost irrelevant because you use so many spells anyways. Like this deck just like poops spells. Like it uses so many spells anyways. The only spell that you're banishing, or the only spell that you want in graveyard, is Soul Servant. Other than that, you're really not using too many spells, so I think it's completely reasonable to do that. Next, we've got Palladium Oracle Mana. I like Mana better than Dark Magician Girl, to be honest with you. I'd rather play her because she has a graveyard effect and hand effect where one of your cards gets targeted, you can bring it back. I think here's fine. Yeah, I like her a lot better than regular Dark Magician Girl, even though she technically is Dark Magician Girl. I like her a lot better. I'd rather play a copy of her. The only issue is she doesn't count as Dark Magician Girl in name, so like when Dark Magicians gets destroyed, you can't summon this card. On top of that, yeah, you can't. It basically loses a little bit of synergy with a lot of the various cards. Next, we have Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight. This is probably C tier. Yeah, that's probably right here. If you're playing Eye of Timaeus and you're already playing Dark Magician Girl, you might as well play this card. Because if you summon a Dark Magician Girl, you can activate Eye of Timaeus, summon this thing out, and this thing has a quick effect to pop a card on your opponent's side of the field, which is not bad, to be fair. It's a quick effect. It's a nice interruption. You can discard something like a Dark Magician, a regular Dark Magician, and then pop a card and then just bring back the Dark Magician with Eternal Soul. Like it's a decent card. It's not the best. I think it's just okay. Next we've got Dark Magician, top of A tier. I don't think this card is S tier. Actually, no, it is S tier. You have to play 3 copies. Like I said, this is based on how good the card is in the deck. You have to play 3 copies. It has to be S tier. Like this is definitely up there. Although it's not as impactful as the Dragoon. So I'll put it in the very, very top of A tier, scratching the bottom of S tier. This card is very necessary in the deck. You have to play 3. Like there's no excuse. You cannot play any less than 3 because you want to be constantly looping them and looping them and looping them with the Eternal Soul and all of the various other cards. You have to play the card. Dark Magical Circle, above Soul Servant, very good card. Lets you look at the top of your deck, pick a card that lists Dark Magician, a spell trap card that lists Dark Magician in its text, and then on top of that, whenever you summon a Dark Magician, you can banish a card, and that's once per turn. But that effect is very good. Because you can, like I said, you just leave this face up on the field, you summon with Eternal Soul constantly, and you banish a card basically every single turn, and you whittle down your opponent's resources until they are no more. Very good card. You definitely need to play it. This card I like. This card I like. This is, I get all of these mixed up because they all have the similar names. This is one of the Magician of Chaos monsters. I struggle. Where do I put this? I like this card a lot. Out of all the ritual monsters, I actually like it the most. But the ritual monsters, we'll talk about it in a second. So I'll put it, actually no, I'll put it like here. I like, this is the best ritual monster, without a doubt. So the problem with the ritual monsters is the same problem that the Red Eyes ritual monsters have, which is that their levels just have no synergy with the rest of the archetype. Like, this is a level 7, and that's nice. But the Dark Magician Chaos is a level 8, so you have to give up more resources. This card is really good because it's a level 7, and when a spell or trap card is activated, you can pop a card, and you can actually pop itself. And if you pop itself, you can pop it. So you can pop your opponent's cards, or you can pop your own. But if you pop itself, and this card goes to the graveyard, it actually floats into any Chaos or Blackluster Soldier ritual monster in the game, ignoring summoning conditions. So it can actually summon cards like the large Dark Magician of Chaos, the one that negates monster effects. I have it somewhere here. I don't even know where it is. It's somewhere in this big mess. This one right here. It can actually float into this monster, which is kind of incredible. But yeah, it's a very, very good card, which is why I like it a lot. Yeah, that's the main like effect of it. It floats into that. Eternal Soul, very necessary. I'd say it's better than Magician's Circle. You can't do anything without Eternal Soul. Like, it's the heart, literally the heart and soul of your deck. Without this card, you almost can't play the deck, just because it gives you so many additional plays and interruptions. It lets you either search a Dark Magic attack, or it lets you special summon a Dark Magician from your hand or graveyard, which is huge in this deck because it basically gives you free resources. The only one drawback, and this is a really stupid drawback, is if this card is popped, you have to destroy all your monsters. And that is so stupid. Like, I don't know why that restriction's even on this card. It's not that broken. I have no idea why it's on there. Additionally, it makes your Dark Magicians unaffected by your opponent's card effects, which is, again, very, very good, because, like, even if they have, like, Raigeki, like, nothing's happening. And so a lot of people don't know what Dark Magician cards do, so they'll just, like, try to target your monster with some stupid effect, or they'll just like try to, like, either destroy or take a Dark Magician or something, and it's just unaffected, and they end up just wasting a card. And it doesn't make it so they're not targetable, it just makes it so they're unaffected. So your opponent can still activate stuff, it just fizzles. So yeah, I like that a lot. Next we've got Mirage Knight. Somehow he's even worse than the Dark Flare Knight, because Dark Flare Knight, you need to destroy you need to lose a Dark Flare Knight by card effect. I'm sorry, you have to just lose a Dark Flare Knight by card effect in order to summon a Mirage Knight. And you would think, like, wow, Mirage Knight, what do you get through summoning this monster through these? You got to jump through all these loopholes. What do you get with the Mirage Knight? So the Mirage Knight, actually, all it does is gains the attack of the attacking if it battles a monster, it basically gains the attack of that monster. So if you battle a monster with, I don't know, let's say 5,000 attack, it'll just gain 5,000 attack, so it'll always win in a battle, basically, which is somewhat cool if you ignore all of the summoning conditions. But then on top of that, after this card, and by the way, it has 2,800 attack, which is, like, no matter what, you're going to be doing 2,800 damage. And then on top of that, when this card battles, you banish it, which is so stupid. Like, at the end of the battle phase that this card battled, you banish it, which is just unbelievably stupid, considering how difficult this card is to summon. Like, how many loopholes you have to jump through to get to this point for it to banish itself. And it has no protection, by the way, so if you attack and your opponent activates, I don't know, like Sarketsu Armor, you just lose. You just wasted 5 cards to get this card on board, and you lose to a Sarketsu Armor. Stupid. Super stupid. Next we have what is it? Dark Burning, Dark Magic attack. Basically, if you control Dark Magician Girl, you can destroy all of your opponent's monster cards. It's not bad, and it's searchable. It's searchable through Bond Between Teacher and Student. It's searchable through a few of the cards that you can search things that, I think you can, the Soul Servant, you can put it on the top of your deck. So it's a searchable card, which makes it somewhat decent. But then you got to play. I mean, just consider what you have to play. You have to play this, which is a brick, and you have to play a Dark Magician Girl, which is a brick. So you have to play multiple bricks just to do this. And again, this is a going first deck. So generally speaking, you want to play cards that you can set face down, kind of like spit out a board, and then leave stuff in. Leave at least one card in your hand for a negate for the Dragoon. You want to just build or create sort of a grind game. That's what you want to do with this deck. And going second cards generally don't fit too much into this deck, and that's why this is where it is. All right, next is the Dark Magicians. This I'll put right here at the sort of bottom of A tier. I like this card because it has a lot of synergy with the deck. Like, it really synergizes very well. Like, it's almost like a regular Dark Magician monster that they like one of the regular Dark Magician monsters, but it's a fusion. Like, it really does play very well with the deck, and that's why I kind of like it. So basically what it does is, if a spell trap card is activated, you can draw a card, which is pretty good. You can do this during either player's turn, so over the course of 2 turns you draw 2 cards, almost like Pot of Greed. And then if it's a spell or trap, if it's a quick play or a trap, you can activate it immediately, or you can set it, which is like pretty cool because you can activate it immediately during your opponent's turn. I like that quite a bit. Or you can set it, or you can just leave it in your hand. Like, it gives you a lot of cool options. On top of that, if this card dies in any way, gets destroyed by battle or card effect, you can float into a Dark Magician Girl and a Dark Magician. So you float basically in the 2 monsters that you gave up to summon this card. And the summoning conditions for this card is very easy. It's just a Dark Magician, and then I think it's like a level 6 or lower spellcaster monster. It's very, very easy to summon. Very easy. That's why I like. You can even use like a Dark Magician and a Rod, for example, rather than going through even having. You don't have to play Dark Magician Girl and have this card. You just won't get the bonus floating effect. But I like the card quite a bit. This is, I forget the official name. Dark Magician Knight. It's not good. It's another card that's not good. I'll put it here. It's another F tier. Basically, what this does is you have to actually, I'll look for it too. Here's the other card. This is also F tier. So basically, you have to have a Dark Magician on your side of the field, and then you tribute that. You activate Knight's title. You tribute that Dark Magician, and then you get to special summon the Dark Magician Knight. And the Dark Magician Knight has the exact same stats as a Dark Magician, but when it's summoned, you get to pop a card. So you basically give up 2 cards to summon 1 card that pops 1 card. So, and it targets. Completely just not appropriate in the metagame. Just not there. Next one, this is Magician's Circle. Basically, this card is bottom of D tier. It's not unusable like these cards, but actually in some cases it actually can be unusable. I'll put it here. So basically what this card does is if a spellcaster monster declares an attack, which, keep in mind, this is a trap card. So if your opponent went first and you're going second and you're declaring an attack with a spellcaster monster, this card is not in play. Like, you have it in your hand. If you're going second and you're attacking, this card is still face down or it's still in your hand. So you have to basically wait 3 turns or 4 turns to even use this card. So basically, when a spellcaster monster attacks, you and your opponent can both special summon a spellcaster monster with 2,000 or less attack from your deck. Which, another issue exists, which, if your opponent doesn't play any spellcasters, based on the OCG ruling, you can't even use this effect because both of you have to special summon a spellcaster. So if they just don't play any, they don't summon any, and then you're just out of luck. You just can't. The card has no use. But yeah, not a good card. I wouldn't play that. Apple Magician Girl. This is one of the better ones. I'd put her. I put her here. She's better than these two. She's still not great. This is actually a really good fusion spell. I like it a lot. I'm actually kind of thinking about where to put it. I really like this fusion spell. I actually will put it right here. This is something Dark Secrets, something like that. But most importantly, it has Dark Magician in its text, which is very important, meaning it's searchable off of it's addable off of the Magical Circle. It's searchable off of the Soul Servant. It's searchable off of Magician's Rod. That's why I like the card. It is searchable. You only have to play 1 copy of this card. You don't have to play 3 and brick all over the place. You only have to play, like I said, 1 single copy of this card, which is why I like it quite a bit. On top of that, it's a quick play. And on top of that, it's not only a fusion spell, it's also a ritual spell. So it can help you either fusion summon or ritual summon. And it's extremely searchable. So I like this card quite a bit. Yeah, it's a very very good fusion spell. You can even, like I said, fusion summon during your opponent's turn if you really wanted to. This is about as well made of a fusion spell as an archetype can get. The ritual part is iffy. I still think Chaos Form is better for summoning out the Chaos Dark Magicians, but I still think it's pretty good for the ritual. Like I would still probably play Chaos Form for the rituals, but it's definitely not bad. Bond between teacher and student, I'm going to put way back here. Bottom of B tier. Very bricky card because, like I said, you got to play a lot of different bricks, but the payoff for this card is huge. So if you control a Dark Magician, you get to summon a Dark Magician girl, and then you can search like 4 different cards if you want to. You can search a Dark Magic attack, Dark Burning attack, the combination, Dark Magic combination or something like that. You can search like Dark Burning attack, Dark Magic attack. There's like one other one that you can search, but you can basically search all of them. You can search one of any of those cards. So it's a pretty good payoff, but again, you know, you got to consider you have to play like 3 other cards that in certain cases, if you don't have the appropriate setup, can be serious bricks. Because it's like, let's say you open one of those cards that you plan to search. Well, now you just like, let's say you open like a Dark Magician girl in your hand, and then a way to summon Dark Magician. You summon Dark Magician, then you waste a card on, then you waste this card to summon a Dark Magician girl from your hand, and then you search a card, and in the end you just search cards that just pop cards, which again, this is a going first deck, so you don't even want to destroy cards. You really just want to have it as an extra option. If you have to like side it in like Dark Magic attack, you really don't want to have it as a main focal point of your deck, because you will just die to interruptions if you try to play this deck going second. It is a very going first deck, so that's really the problem. It introduces a lot of bricks, and it searches cards that are very helpful for going second in a deck that wants to go first. Thousand Knives, actually I forgot to mention, this card is also searchable. You shouldn't search it, but it is also it's probably here. It's also searchable off of Eternal Soul, so you can actually search either the Dark Magic attack or the Thousand Knives. But I wouldn't be playing Thousand Knives, because basically what this card lets you do is just pop a monster on your opponent's side of the field if you control a Dark Magician, which is, by the way, I love the artwork, but that's irrelevant because this card is not that great. Realistically speaking, Dark Magical Circle lets you banish a card every single turn, so you don't even need this card, honestly. This is like Magic Formula. I forget this card. The crazy thing is this card's secret rare is like $1,000. All it does is make a Dark Magician gain 700 attack, and then if this card's destroyed, you gain 1,000 life points. Like, super irrelevant. Like, it's technically, these are all unusable cards. This is technically usable, but I just don't use it. All right, next we've got Miracle Restoring. This card is another trash card. Basically, you remove 2 spell counters from anywhere on the field, and then you can special summon a Dark Magician or Buster Blader from your graveyard, or from your graveyard. Buster Blader or Dark Magician from your graveyard. It is just, first of all, Dark Magicians haven't played spell counters since Magician's Force, and that was like in like 2003. So the whole spell counter thing just is completely not even a thing in the Dark Magician archetype anymore, so it's totally irrelevant. On top of that, it summons it from the graveyard, which every single card that I've mentioned already, like so many cards already do a better job of that. Magician Souls does a better job of that. Eternal Soul does a better job of that. Like, literally any other card is better than this. Like, it's not, see, these cards are technically worse because they're harder to summon, but yeah, these 2 are technically worse because they're way more difficult to summon. But this card is it's just so, the payoff is just so bad. It's just so terrible. All right, next we've got the Dark Magic Twin Burst. This card is another card that's you can add off of the bond between teacher and student, although I don't think you should. It goes at the end of D tier. It is not a good card. Basically, it just lets you, if you have a Dark Magician on your field, you can have your Dark Magician gain attack equal to the Dark Magician girls that you control. So if you control like 3 Dark Magician girls, He gains 2,000 attack each, which doesn't seem too bad because he gains 6,000 attack. But in reality, then you have to think about like, how am I going to control 3 Dark Magician girls? So it's just not worth. Like most of the time, you'll have 1 Dark Magician and 1 Dark Magician girl, and you activate this card, and it makes him 4,500 attack, which you could do, or you could just summon a Dragoon and then not have to do any of that. And then pop cards and do all this other great stuff. Like, that's why Dragoon kind of power-crept a lot of this deck, where you don't have to play a lot of this, like, you don't have to play stuff like Dark Burning Attack and Bond Between Teacher and Student and stuff like this, like, and even Thousand Knives. You don't have to play any of the monster removal, because Dragoon already does that, and you just do it naturally throughout your deck. You don't have to include all of these bricks. You just summon Dragoon very consistently and just live your life like that. Magician's Rod searches on normal summon, your best normal summon, probably the only normal summon, right here. Definitely, this is like, these cards you have to play. Absolutely no questions asked. You have to play these cards. Yeah, Magician's Rod is a very, very good card. It searches on normal summon, and then has an effect where if it's in the graveyard and you activate a spell, you can tribute a spellcaster monster, add it back to your hand, which again is a very good effect, because you can tribute a Dark Magician on your side of the field, and then add this back to your hand, and then just special summon the Dark Magician back to your field with the Eternal Soul, and the next turn you have this card to normal summon and then search again. Very, very good card in the deck. Very good. Yeah, it's just, as a matter of fact, I like it so much, I'm going to probably put it above this. Yeah, I like it that much. It is a very, very good consistency card. You have to play it like it's your best normal summon. You have no excuse not. Alright, so next is Magician's Robe. Magician's Robe has a better graveyard effect than Rod, but a worst on-field effect than Rod. I'll probably put it right here. You can use it sometimes, but it's very, very questionable. So Magician's Robe, the problem with it is its on-field effect allows you to discard a spell or trap card during your opponent's turn in order to special summon a Dark Magician from deck, which doesn't seem like it's not that bad, but then again, you don't want to discard spell and trap cards. So yeah, it's just not that great, but its graveyard effect is pretty cool, where if this card's in the graveyard and a spell or trap card is activated, you can special summon this card back. So basically, if this card's already in the graveyard and a spell trap card is activated, you could summon this, and then you can use that effect to discard to summon. So this card's only really good if it's already in the graveyard, but if it's not in the graveyard and you actually have to normal summon this and then like try to play it like that, you really don't want to discard your spawn trap cards. It's kind of sacred to you. Like, you really don't want to lose them. You don't want to give them up for just to summon 1 Dark Magician, that's for sure. Palladium Oracle Mahad, I love this card. I actually legitimately do love this card. I'm going to put it, yeah, right here. Very easy to summon. If you draw it, you summon it. It does have a when effect, so it does miss timing. So if you use like Allure of Darkness and you draw it, you miss the timing, you can't summon it. But typically, if you summon this, it's pretty cool. Easy to summon. It floats into a Dark Magician when destroyed, and then when it battles a Dark Monster, it gains a ton of attacks. Very good. Dark Magician, Chocolate Dark Magician Girl. I actually like this card a lot. It's the best Dark Magician Girl by far. By far. I'm going to put it above Mana. It is the best Dark Magician Girl. Basically, it lets you discard a spellcaster to draw a card. Already a pretty good one, because it puts like Dark Magician in graveyard along with any of your bricks like Dark Magician Girl, stuff like that. So that effect is very, very good. On top of that, it has the usual battle phase floating nonsense, but it actually sets up its own battle phase floating nonsense, where like you discarded that spellcaster, and now if your opponent attacks this, you basically redirect your attack to that monster. You basically special summon a monster from the graveyard and then redirect that attack to that monster. So like, let's say you discarded a Dark Magician, you can special summon, and your opponent attacks this, you special summon Dark Magician, and then your opponent's stuck attacking the Dark Magician at half the power. On top of that, this card actually has pretty good like levels. It's a level 4 and it's a water. So if you summon 2 of these, you can go to a Bahamut Shark and then do it totally awesome. Which is a pretty cool play to do sometimes. But yeah, by far, one of my favorite Dark Magician Girl. Like, it actually is my favorite Dark Magician Girl card of all of them. By far. Very good. Very good from a Dark Magician Girl standpoint, which is not very good. Next, we've got Dark Cavalry. Is okay. Again, this is like a very going second card, because it has piercing and it has a targeting protection, negate. So it has some pretty like cool effects. And what you need to summon it is a warrior and a dark magician. So you can like summon a dark magician and super poly your opponent's monster away, or you can just use Eye of Timaeus. But it's a little situational. I very rarely go into this card. Most of the time, Dragoon is just a better option. It just is. But it's a cool like artwork and stuff. But Dragoon is typically just a better option because Dark Dragoon would just pop 2 cards instead of having to do all this piercing and all this nonsense. Yeah. All right, Illusion Magic. This card used to be played a lot, but it's kind of like faded off. I'll put it back here. Basically, it lets you tribute a spellcaster and then add 2 copies to Dark Magician. This used to be a very popular card. It has a lot of cool uses where, like, let's say you summon like a Magician's Rod and your opponent activates impermanence. You can activate this, tribute the Magician's Rod. Your search still goes through, and then you add 2 copies of Dark Magician. You added Eternal Soul, and then you can like get your whole Eternal Soul nonsense going. So it has its uses, but Magician's Souls has completely Powercrept this card. Like, this card is no point to play it. This card used to be good because it lets you get Dark Magician out, or at least into your hand very quickly. But again, Apprentice, Illusion, and Magician's Souls are very easy to get into. There's just no point to play this anymore. Like, it's not that it's a bad card. It's just that there are better cards now. That's the issue with that card. Next, we've got Skilled Dark Magician. Not a good card. It's technically more usable than these cards because these are just like, there's no point to play them. This basically, if every time a spell card is activated, you add a spell counter. After 3 spell counters, you contribute this, summon a Dark Magician. Not a bad effect. I mean, like, I'm sorry, it's a terrible effect. It's cool that you summon Dark Magician, but that is way too much stuff to do. Like, there's just 1 Magician's Souls does what this card does and more. So there's just no play. There's no point to play this. Yeah. All right, next is Dark Burning Magic. This card is, technically speaking, better than... Yeah, Dark Burning Magic is technically better than Dark Burning Attack. Because if you control a Dark Magician and a Dark Magician drill, you can pop all cards your opponent controls, spells, and traps. But we've had this conversation. It's just not very good. You have to play a ton of different bricks in your deck. And on top of playing a ton of different bricks... on top of having to play a ton of different bricks, it basically is a pretty going second card in a deck that wants to go first. I'm getting kind of tired of saying that, but it's the truth. All right, next is Amulet Dragon. This card is... It's technically a good option with Eye of Timaeus, but like, it's just, again, you know, there's just better, like, yeah, it's not that good of an option. Amulet Dragon, basically when it's summoned, you banish any number of spells from either graveyard, and then this card gains 100 attack for each, and then if it's destroyed, it floats into a spellcaster from grave. Like, technically, actually I'll put it near this right here. Like, technically it's an okay thing, but it basically, it's just it's worse than Dragoon, it's worse than the Dark Magicians, and it's worse than Dark Magician the Dragon Knight. It's a worse version, it's a worse option than all of those cards. It absolutely is, and that's why it is where it is. If those options didn't exist, then this card would obviously be higher, but they do, so there's no point. Next is the Ritual Spell for Dark Magician of Chaos, also just unusable, don't play it. Top of B tier easily, Magician's Navigation. This card has fallen out of favor recently. Definitely has fallen out of favor recently, just because people have not been wanting to play it. But I think it's still a pretty good card. When basically it lets you special summon two spellcaster monsters, one from hand, one from graveyard, and then on top of that, it has a graveyard effect where you can, if your opponent activates a spell or a trap, you can banish this and negate the activation. You can negate the effect if you have a Dark Magician on your side of the field. So it has fallen out of favor quite a bit, but I still kind of have a warm spot in my heart for this card. I like it quite a bit. Next, we've got the Dark Magician of Chaos Max. This is worse than the other Dark Magician of Chaos, but I put it somewhere in B tier. I actually think this card is very good. Basically, when it's special summoned, you contribute it, and then you contribute a monster on your side of the field, and your opponent can't activate monster effects for the rest of the turn. Which there is a cool combo that you can do with the other Dark Magician of Chaos, where you can summon this, and then pop itself, float into this, and then activate this effect, tribute a monster, and during your opponent's turn, they're basically locked out of monster effects for like an entire turn, which is pretty good. Most decks are not gonna beat you if they can't use monster effects. So it's a cool like stall tactic, and then the following turn you can OTK them. Also, this card when it destroys a monster by battle, it adds a spell from graveyard, which is again pretty cool thing to do. The only issue with this card is it just doesn't have a lot of synergy with the. It doesn't have a lot of synergy with the level in terms of the level, because Dark Magician is a level 7. You have a lot of level 7s and level 6s in your deck, and this thing is a level 8, which is extremely frustrating. Just being a level 8 makes it so you have to give up more resources in order to summon this card, which can be very, very much of an issue. Magician's Valkyria. This card is just too old to be playable. It sucks because it's a cool looking card. It's like another Dark Magician Girl, but it's just not. It basically, if it's on the field, your opponent can't activate other spellcasters. If you get 2 of them on board, you can stop your opponent from attacking you, which seems cool, but they can just pop it, so it's pointless. Next is Dark Magical Veil. It basically, at a cost of 1,000, you can special summon a Dark Magician from your hand or graveyard, which Eternal Soul does absolutely for free. So no real point to play it, but it's not terrible, so I'll put it right here. Like sometimes I could see somebody playing that. I'm not gonna. This is my least favorite of the Dark Magician Girl cards because it is a higher level, and sure, it's not that hard to summon because most of them like redirect attacks into like your hand, into like your deck, into the graveyard. But typically, it gives you protection on board too. But I just, like I said, these are just very unuseful in the Dark Magician archetype. They might be useful in the Dark Magician Girl solo archetype, but in the Dark Magician archetype, they're just not too useful. This is Ebon High Magician. I put it right here. Actually, it's supposed to work with Magi Magician, but unfortunately, this card never got released. But basically, if you were to activate a quick play spell, you can activate it during your opponent's turn by detaching a material from this card, which is a pretty cool effect. You can fuse during your opponent's turn, stuff like that. But typically, Ebon Illusion Magician is a better option, and that's right here. I'll actually just do this now. Ebon Illusion Magician, I'd say, goes in A tier right here. It's a very good option. You have to play it in your extra deck. It's a very good card. Magician's Combination. I'm very iffy on this card. I'm going to throw this. Magician's Combination I'm going to throw at the top of C tier. Actually, no, I'll put it into the B tier area here. So this card is a little weird. When your opponent activates a monster spell trap, you control a Dark Magician or a Dark Magician Girl, you can tribute that Dark Magician or a Dark Magician Girl to summon a Dark Magician, the opposite, Dark Magician or Dark Magician Girl from the graveyard, and then negate the activation, which is like not bad, but then you have to consider that you have to have all of this nonsense in hand, in grave, all this, like you have to have all of these cards in circulation for it to even be useful. And if you don't have those cards, this card is just a straight up brick. And then if this card is destroyed while face up, you get to pop a card on your opponent's side of the field, which is not bad. At least it has a floating effect if you can't like use the other effect. Fusion Wave Motion Cannon, very old card, very unsearchable. It goes right here. It's another battle phase card. You get to attack all your opponent's monsters. I don't think it's too good. Dark Sorcerer, again, this is another card that it just doesn't, it's not technically in the archetype. It is because Yugi used it, but it's not, because you don't have to particularly use it. You can use this in like Pendulum Magicians, but it's got a coolish effect. I put it somewhere down here. Basically you special summon him by tributing 2 level 6 or higher spellcaster monsters, which isn't too hard to do in like the modern Dark Magician builds, but all it does is just give you a trap card negate. It's not enough. Next we've got the Magician's Defense. This just halves battle damage. All these battle damage cards, I don't like any of them. Like, it's better than these two. It's better than this. It halves battle damage, and then if it's popped, you get to summon a spellcaster monster from the graveyard. I don't like any of these battle phase cards. They're just not They're not too great. Yeah, not really a favorite of mine. This one's a little controversial. I actually like this. All right, Dark Sage I like a lot. So summoning Dark Sage, you have to basically walk through hell on your hands to summon a Dark Sage. It's almost impossible to summon. Like, it's very difficult. You have to have a Dark Magician and a Time Wizard on field in order to resolve it, and you have to successfully win a coin toss, which is like, there's just so many things there that you have to do. It's very difficult to summon, but the payoff is actually worth it. Like with these other cards, it's not worth it. The Mirage Knight, the Dark Flare Knight, the Magician of Black Chaos, the Dark Magician Knight, like none of those cards, the payoff is worth it. But this card actually has one of the craziest effects. It can search any spell card in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Literally any spell card. Dark Ruler No More, like whatever spell card you think is broken, it will search that spell card. Which is like, I don't even know, I could keep going for Monster Reborn, any of the one-ofs in the game right now, card destruction, like it can search anything, any spell card in the game, which is a crazy payoff. It's just very difficult to summon, but I gotta give it to them. Like, if they make it easier to summon this card, because they can always drop support at the drop of a hat. If they make this card easier to summon, I can see this card actually seeing quite a bit of play. So I'm gonna actually put this, controversially enough, in D tier. Not that controversial, but a little bit controversial. Dark Renewal, this is a decent card. I'll put it right here. It takes a little bit of setup, but it's a half decent card. Magician Soul, solid S tier, no questions asked. Actually, it's better in the deck than Dragoon. It's not better overall than Dragoon, but it is better in the deck than Dragoon. It does so much. So it puts a Dark Magician in graveyard or a Dark Magician Girl. On top of that, you can send cards from your side of the field or from your hand, spawn trap cards, and then draw that number of many cards. So if you have like 2 circles, for example, in your starting hand, they're once per turn, you can just use this, get rid of the other one. Like it has so much synergy with the deck. It lets you also, it's even better in this deck than it is in other decks, because you can send it to the graveyard to summon a Dark Magician. Like it's such a good card. Like this card has made the deck so much better. It really has. Dark Paladin, this card is also another card that's useful. It's useful. It negates spells, which is pretty good. And you could summon it, of course, off of Eye of Tamash, just like any of the other Dark Magician fusions. Of all of them, I think it's actually one of the better ones. I'll put it at the bottom of B tier. And then on top of that, if you're playing against Dragon Link, you can summon this thing out and it'll have like 3 million attack. It's really good. And has a spell negate. So I actually think this is half decent. Again, Dragoon is just a better version. So actually, I'll put this here. I'll put this in C tier. Let me not overdo it. Dragoon is just a better version of this card because it negates monster spells or traps. And then on top of that, it can't be targeted, it can't be destroyed. It has a ton of protection. Whereas this card just negates spells. So I think it's just better. Magic Curtain used to be somewhat useful. I actually don't think it's very useful anymore. I'll put it down here. Pay half your life points, summon a Dark Magician. Can't normal summon or set the turn this is activated. Not it for me. This is a repeat, and so is this. But there are repeats here because I added one more card that I forgot earlier. Where is it? There it is. Dark Eradicator Warlock. I forgot to add this card. This is another card. This came out with the structure deck. You summon this card by tributing a Dark Magician, and the payoff is just not worth it. Basically, every time a spell card is activated, you inflict 1,000 to your opponent. It's not good. Just the payoff's not worth it. You tribute a Dark Magician, which is not difficult to do because you could just use this, like this card and Magician Souls is like a 2-card combo. Activate Magician Soul, summon the Dark Magician, tribute it, summon this, and then every time your opponent activates a spell or you activate a spell, they lose 1,000. It's not enough. Like you're not going to be able to loop enough spells in one turn in order to like FTK your opponent, unfortunately. So I'd say it is technically still more usable than all of these cards. These cards are literally unusable. So I'd rather honestly, I'd rather play these than all the D tier cards, to be honest. I'll put this at the bottom of C tier because I'd rather use this card than all of these cards here. But that is it. If you enjoyed this tier list, or I guess this ranking, just let me know. If you want any other rankings, please let me know. I have a ton of ideas going forward. But yeah, just tell me what exactly you guys want, and I'll try to facilitate that. I'll try to make that tier list for you. But here's everything, and thank you for watching, guys. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy this type of content, check out the other videos on the channel, and please subscribe. It helps the channel a lot. Again, thank you so much. Have a terrific day.